It is the 22nd of the 10th, 2013. 28 signs that the West Coast is being absolutely fried with nuclear radiation from Fukushima. Very interesting article. The Truth Wins by Michael Snyder. The map of the left comes from the Nuclear Emergency Tracking Center. It shows the radiation levels at radiation monitoring stations all over the country are elevated. As you will notice, this is particularly true along the west coast of the United States. Every single day, 300 tons of radioactive water from Fukushima enters the Pacific Ocean. That means the total amount of radioactive material released from Fukushima is constantly increasing, and it is steadily building up in our food chain. Ultimately, all this nuclear radiation will outlive all of us by a very wide margin. They're saying that it could take up to 40 years to clean up Fukushima disaster, and meanwhile, countless innocent people will develop cancer and other health problems as a result of the exposure to high levels of nuclear radiation. We're talking about nuclear disaster that is absolutely unprecedented and is constantly getting worse. The following are 28 signs that the west coast of North America is being absolutely fried with nuclear radiation from Fukushima. 1. Polar bears, seals, and walruses along the Alaska coastline are suffering from fur loss and open sores. Wildlife experts are studying whether the fur loss and open sores detected in 9 polar bears in recent weeks is widespread and related to similar incidents among seals and walruses. The bears were among 33 spotted near Barrow, Alaska during routine survey work along the Arctic coastline. Tests showed that they had loss of fur and other skin lesions, the U.S. Geological Survey said in a statement. 2. There's an epidemic of sea lion deaths along the California coastline. An island rickeries off the Southern California coast. 45% of the pups born in June have died. And Sharon Millen, a wildlife biologist for the National Marine Fisheries Service based in Seattle, normally less than 1/3 of the pups would die. It's gotten so bad in the past 2 weeks that the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration declared an unusual mortality event. 3. Along the Pacific coast of Canada, the Alaskan coastline, the population of sockeye salmon is at historic low. Many are blaming Fukushima. 4. Something is causing fish all along the west coast of Canada to bleed from their gills, bellies, and eyeballs. 5. A vast field of radioactive debris from Fukushima that is approximately the size of California has crossed the Pacific Ocean and is starting to collide with the west coast. 6. It's being projected that the radioactivity of coastal waters off the U.S. west coast could double over the next 5 to 6 years. Experts have found high levels of cesium-137 in plankton living in the waters of the Pacific Ocean between Hawaii and the west coast. 8. One test in California found that 15 out of 15 bluefin tuna were contaminated with radiation from Fukushima. 9. Back in 2012, Vancouver Sun reported that cesium-137 was being found in a very high percentage of the fish that Japan was selling to Canada. 10. Canadian authorities are finding extremely high levels of nuclear radiation in certain fish samples. Some fish samples tested to date have had very high levels of radiation. One sea bass sample collected in July, for example, had 1,000 becquerels per kilogram of cesium. 11. Some experts believe that we could see very high levels of cancer along the west coast just from people eating contaminated fish. 12. BBC News recently reported that radiation levels around Fukushima are 18 times higher than previously believed. I'm sure it's higher than that. 13. An EU-funded study concluded that Fukushima released up to 210 quadrillion becquerels of cesium-137 into the atmosphere. 14. Atmospheric radiation from Fukushima reached the west coast of the United States within a few days, back in 2011. 15. At this point, 300 tons of contaminated water is pouring into the Pacific Ocean from Fukushima every single day. 16. A senior researcher in marine chemistry at the Japan Meteorology Agency says that 30 billion becquerels of radioactive cesium and 30 billion becquerels of radioactive strontium are being released into the Pacific Ocean from Fukushima every single day. Nothing on plutonium. According to a professor at Tokyo University, 3 gigabecquerels of cesium-137 are flowing into the port of Fukushima Daiichi every single day. 19. It's been estimated that up to 100 times as much nuclear radiation has been released into the ocean from Fukushima than what was released during the entire Chernobyl disaster. And that's still ongoing too. Number 20. One recent study concluded that a very large plume of cesium-137 from the Fukushima disaster will start flowing to the U.S. coastal waters early next year. I believe it's already here. 21. It's being projected that significant levels of cesium-137 will reach every corner of the Pacific Ocean by the year 2020. It's only a matter of time. 22. It's being projected that the entire Pacific Ocean will soon have cesium levels 5 to 10 times higher than what we witnessed during the era of heavy atomic bomb testing in the Pacific many decades ago. And did you know 85% of that radiation is still in the stratosphere? It hasn't fallen yet. 23. The immense amount of nuclear radiation getting into the water in the Pacific Ocean has caused environmental activist Joe Martino to issue the following warning. Quote, "Your days of eating Pacific fish are over." 24. The iodine-137 and iodine-131, cesium-137, and strontium-90 that are constantly coming from Fukushima are going to affect the health of those living in the northern hemisphere for a very, very long time. Just consider what Harvey Wasserman had to say about this. Iodine-131, for example, can be ingested into the thyroid, where it emits beta particles that damage tissue. A plague of damaged thyroids have already been reported among as many as 40% of the children in the Fukushima area. That percentage can only go higher in developing youngsters. It can stunt physical and mental growth. Among adults, it can cause a very wide range of ailments, including cancer. Cesium-137 from Fukushima has been found in fish as far away as California. It's spreading through the body. It tends to accumulate in the muscles. Strontium-90's half-life is around 29 years. It mimics calcium and goes to our bones. Very, very bad. 25. According to a recent Planet InfoWars report, the California coastline is being transformed into a dead zone. The California coastline is becoming like a dead zone. If you haven't been to a California beach lately, you probably don't know that the rocks are unnaturally clean. There's hardly any kelp, barnacles, sea urchins, etc. anymore, and the tide pools are similarly eerie, devoid of crabs, snails, and other scurrying signs of life. And especially as compared to 10 to 15 years ago, when one was wise to wear tennis shoes on a trip to the beach in order to avoid cutting one's feet on all the stuff of life, broken shells, bones, glass, driftwood, etc. There's also been days where I am hard-pressed to even find a half-dozen seagulls and or terns on the county beach. You can still find a few gulls trolling around the picnic areas and some of the restaurants, with outdoor seating areas for food, of course. But when I think back to 10-15 years ago, the skies all around the beaches were literally filled with seagulls and the haunting sounds of their cries both day and night. Now it's unnaturally quiet. 26. A study conducted last year came to the conclusion that radiation from the Fukushima nuclear disaster could negatively affect human life along the west coast of North America and Mexico to Alaska for decades. I'm talking centuries. 27. According to the Wall Street Journal, it's being projected that the cleanup of the Fukushima could take up to 40 years to complete. And that is a joke. Finally, number 28. Yale professor Charles Perrow is warning that if the cleanup of Fukushima is not handled with 100% precision, that humanity could be threatened for thousands of years. And they're going on about the spent fuel pool number 4 threat, which has already burned. Are you starting to understand why so many people are so deeply concerned about what's going on at Fukushima? For much more on all of this, please check out our video posted below, and I will provide the links, of course. Reading through the E&E comments, I stumbled across this article, and it is true. What are we going to do? Enjoy while you can, people. Thanks.